A completely peaceful city known as City A is suddenly disrupted by the arrival of a giant monster with purple skin, who curiously bears a resemblance to Piccolo, and he begins to sow chaos. This terrifying creature goes by the name Vaccine Man, and seems to have defeated a couple of superheroes. Just before Vaccine Man can continue his rampage, our protagonist enters the scene and saves a girl who was in danger. This individual is dressed as a true superhero, characterized, among other things, by his completely bald head. This character goes by the name of Saitama. Seeing the rocket speed of a bald man, Monster Vaccine Man gets furious and reveals his true form. But what happens next is astonishing. Saitama defeats Vaccine Man with a single and seemingly simple punch. Shocking, Saitama is astonished again to see his overpowered punch. However, the mystery lies in why Saitama, despite his apparent ease in defeating enemies, finds himself in a state of frustration. To understand it better, let's take a quick look at his past before becoming a hero. This Saitama is in a state of profound despair, having recently been laid off from his job. Amid his desolation, our protagonist is unemployed and overwhelmed by emptiness. On his way, he encounters a crustacean-like monster named Crab Lante. Crab Lante is surprised that the suit-wearing lad doesn't run away in fear and tells him that he can go, as his target is a brat with a cleft chin. Continuing on his way home, the young, unemployed man comes across the child described by Crab Lante and makes an unusual decision to rescue a child who unfortunately has an unattractive appearance. This child is in trouble and faces this giant crab-like monster Crab Lante. He bravely fights the monster, engaging in what appears to be an evenly matched battle, stirring a mix of profound sadness and intense emotion within him. This emotion he experiences during the fight kindles a burning desire in Saitama. He decides to save the kid, killing Crab Lante with a necktie and ripping out his eye stalk. It is thanks to this passion that wells up from within him during combat that Saitama contemplates the idea of becoming a hero. Inspired by this feeling, he embarks on an unrelenting training regimen, day after day, with the firm goal of becoming what he is today, the most powerful man in the world. A few days later, the city is once again struck, but this time by a giant villain who is destroying everything in his path. It appears that this beast is being commanded by a young scientist who happens to be his brother. This evil genius named Hukagao created a formula that he calls King Biceps. Maragori wanted to become the strongest man, and the two of them set out to conquer the world. Suddenly, the older brother looks in surprise as Saitama is riding on the shoulder of his younger brother and orders the giant to kill our bald friend. But to everyone's surprise, he accidentally crushes his own brother, unleashing uncontrollable fury on Saitama. Maragori gets furious and begins to deliver a series of lethal blows to Saitama, but he returns them, completely obliterating the monster with a single punch. The certainty of Saitama's transformation becomes undeniably evident. Later, he demonstrates his prowess by also defeating a peculiar individual who resembles a strange vehicle, all with a single punch. These acts of skill are carried out while Saitama shares with us his existential problems. In fact, he reveals that he has reached a point in his life where he no longer experiences any emotion in his battles. He feels that day by day, he is stripping away his own humanity. Later, young Saitama has a dream while sleeping soundly. In this dream, we are immersed in an underground world inhabited by strange creatures that emerge with the intention of conquering Earth. In this dream world, Saitama faces these creatures, which, for the first time in a long time, provide him with genuine excitement and a real challenge. This young hero engages in epic battles and eliminates his enemies one after another, all with a single punch, until he finally confronts the leader of these creatures. However, it is at this moment that Saitama wakes up from his dream and is confronted with the harsh reality. What is revealed in reality is that these creatures, far from being fearsome, surrender at the first punch. Our protagonist is at home, enjoying a moment of relaxation while watering his cacti. Suddenly, he hears on the television an alarming news report. An epidemic of mosquitoes has paralyzed City Z, leaving a trail of mummified animals in its wake. Authorities urge the residents of nearby cities to take shelter. Despite the unsettling news, our protagonist continues with his routine, tending to his beloved plants. Suddenly, a mosquito starts to annoy the protagonist, who begins to search for it to eliminate it. However, it seems that neither the mosquito is easy to catch, nor our character is particularly skilled in the pursuit. While our bald superhero battles the mosquito in his home in City Z, a thief finds himself enveloped by this swarm of mosquitoes, consuming him completely. That must have hurt. This swarm begins to disperse, but something unusual marks it as the target. The swarm disperses, revealing a female figure who appears to be responsible for the attacks. This mysterious mosquito girl feeds on blood to enhance her powers. Tension mounts, and an individual named Genos confronts the mosquito girl, challenges her, and vows to stop her. The fight seems quite evenly matched, as both exchange their attacks and manage to evade them with ease. However, the mosquito girl retaliates with her swarm, but is quickly obliterated by the cyborg man with a flamethrower built into his arm. Amid the fierce battle, the cyborg, Genos, unleashes a flamethrower attack against the mosquito girl, but she uses her speed to dodge the attack and manages to tear off one of Genos' arms. However, the cyborg is faster than he appears and dismembers both of the mosquito girl's legs without her realizing it. The mosquito girl is caught off guard and attempts to flee. Desperate and with few options, she summons all the mosquitoes in the area and the surrounding regions to feed her with the blood they have taken from the forest animals. Genos prepares to face the massive swarm surrounding the mosquito girl. At that moment, they hear a bald man spraying insecticide to get rid of the mosquitoes bothering them. This bald man turns out to be Saitama, and the bald man notices the mega swarm forming in the sky, with the cyborg warning that they must flee immediately, as the swarm could drain their blood in an instant. The swarm attacks them mercilessly, but the cyborg unleashes a desperate explosive attack that destroys the entire swarm, leaving Saitama unscathed, but naked. Then, the mosquito girl reveals herself in the sky and attacks the cyborg, leaving him gravely injured as she has dramatically increased her powers. She is about to deliver the final blow to the cyborg, who is preparing to self-destruct. However, at that moment, our protagonist, Saitama, delivers a single punch that ends the mosquito girl, despite her supposed achievement of a supernatural level. It's another disappointment for Saitama, who continues to search for a worthy opponent. Genos is left impressed by Saitama's abilities and asks him to become his mentor, to which Saitama finally agrees. After a few days, Genos visits the home of the bald superhero and begins to earn his trust. He then reveals his tragic story. 4 years ago, when he was just 15, he was a normal human and lost his family and entire city in a rampage by a rogue cyborg. Genos was the sole survivor and was rescued by a doctor named Dr. Kusuno, who transformed him into a cyborg so he could pursue the evil cyborg and stop him. However, up to that point, he hasn't been able to achieve his goal and needs to become stronger. The conversation was getting lengthy, so Saitama asked our metal friend to summarize his story. However, in the end, Saitama surprised the cyborg by accepting him as his disciple. At that moment, a group of enemies arrived with the intention of kidnapping them and taking them to a place called the House of Evolution. The first of these enemies, a mantis, didn't even have a chance to introduce itself as Saitama greeted it with a powerful punch that sent it crashing into the wall. After this initial confrontation, Saitama and his new disciple went out into the street, where they encountered more foes. Saitama was taken by surprise and buried in the ground by Ground Dragon. Meanwhile, the cyborg faced Armored Gorilla in an intense battle. While Genos fought against Armored Gorilla, a lion-shaped monster named Beast King and a mole-shaped one urged Saitama to surrender if he didn't want to die. However, this didn't faze our protagonist at all. He emerged from the ground casually, surprising the enemies. Saitama finally faced the lion and effortlessly dodged all of its attacks. He used his normal punch combo technique for the first time, and defeated the lion with a series of powerful blows. Subsequently, the mole tried to escape, but Saitama pursued it underground and defeated it with punches. Finally, Armored Gorilla surrendered and revealed the reason behind their attacks. The ape thus narrates the story of his creator, a scientist named Genos, who, disillusioned by the lack of support for his theories from the scientific community, decides to embark on a path towards the artificial creation of humanity. With determination, Genos conducts his research clandestinely, dedicating virtually his entire life to the study of his thesis. After 70 years of effort, He finally achieves the desired results and, furthermore, manages to rejuvenate himself through a formula he creates. He begins to experiment with animals and other human beings, even cloning himself to form a vast army of clones. The tired superhero, fed up with the story, asks the ape to summarize it in around 20 words because his sensei gets bored with long tales. The ape reveals that their boss wants to use the superhero's body for an evolution experiment, leading the bald guy and the cyborg to decide to head to the evolution house's lair. However, the superhero reminds the cyborg that they must complete this mission quickly, as they need to go shopping on Saturday to seize an unmissable deal. Our heroes set off on their journey to the mad scientist's hideout. However, before they depart, Genos returns to where the ape was to ask a few questions. He wants to know how many individuals were created in that hideout, and if any of them have wreaked havoc on villages in the past. Unfortunately, Genos doesn't manage to find the cyborg he's looking for. Meanwhile, the cyborg ape puts everyone on alert, urging them to prepare for the arrival of our heroes. The scientist instructs his clones that the elite forces have been defeated by these two phenomena, and warns them not to allow them to reach the laboratory, as years of research would be lost in an instant. To prevent such a tragedy, they must release an individual named Asura Kabuto, which makes the clones nervous since they know he is an extremely dangerous creature. Our heroes finally arrive at the location, making a triumphant entrance. Genos plows through everything in his path, leaving his sensei astonished, noticing that Genos is taking the mission seriously, to finish as quickly as possible. While they investigate the debris, they discover an underground tunnel and decide to venture into it. Inside the House of Evolution, a beast named Asura Kabuto annihilates one of Genos' clones, but apparently it wasn't his only victim, as it seems he was losing control, and it appears he was rebelling against the scientist. There, on their way inside the tunnels, our heroes come face to face with the imposing Kabuto, who appears to have attacked the leader of clones, and the giant hurls the poor cyborg against the wall with devastating force. He invites the bald one into a spacious room to face him. Our hero, Saitama, starts to get excited by the giant's defiant attitude. However, once again, the cyborg tries to confront him with his incineration power, but ends up being easily defeated, just as it happened in the previous encounter. Afterward, the bald man gets ready to face Asura Kabuto and showcases a display of his extraordinary speed. However, just as he's about to attack, the thug backs away with a terrified expression. Kabuto admits that if he had attacked at that moment, he would be dead. The phenomenon seems very scared and asks how on earth he became so strong. Saitama, super calm, appears about to reveal the secret of his super strength to everyone present, including Genos, who was approaching to listen. However, Genos doesn't view the idea of revealing his secret to their adversaries favorably. His training consisted of daily 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 sit-ups, along with running 10 kilometers every day for 3 years. He maintained a diet that included 3 meals a day, rich in bananas, avoided using air conditioning and heating, and never took a single day off. All of this led to him losing his hair entirely. However, apparently, no one in the room believed that his impressive power came from such basic training. Even his disciple had serious doubts that such a routine could be the source of his abilities. The giant, seemingly on the brink of losing control once more, unleashed his Asura mode. But, to everyone's surprise, Saitama was unimpressed, and his mind wandered to the discount day at the store, which wasn't the next day as he had thought, but that very day. While he was distracted, Saitama took him out with a single punch. After the battle, Genos suggested that they still had time to go to the supermarket, and they both sped off. Witnessing this scene, Dr. Genos decided to abandon his plans for artificial evolution, and realized that he was the one who needed to change. The officials from the Hero Association inspected the site where the House of Evolution had exploded and discussed the destructive impact of Genos. After the events at the evolution houses, the city witnesses the emergence of a man named Hammerhead, who leads a group of revolutionaries known as the Togen Gang. This group is composed of several bald individuals dressed in war armor, determined to wage war against the millionaires who exploit them through long working hours and low wages. However, their demands go unnoticed by most people on the street, as they announce their plans against Zeniru, a wealthy tycoon who owns a nearby apartment building, to instill fear in the city and make the citizens start taking the threats of this group of bald individuals seriously. They begin by destroying a building. On the other hand, Saitama doesn't seem to know what this group is up to. Instead, he appears to be caught in a nightmare where he's playing rock, paper, scissors with someone who has a booger on their finger. However, his indifference suddenly changes when he hears on the news that authorities declare all bald individuals as dangerous. This undoubtedly discredits our beloved superhero. Saitama becomes furious upon realizing that, because of the actions of the Togen gang, people might start to consider him a villain. Without hesitation, he heads to the scene to take them down. Meanwhile, the bald individuals are heading towards businessman Zeniru's tower, destroying everything in their path. At the building's entrance, a bicycle hero appears trying to stop the revolutionaries, but he ends up being defeated with a single blow. This mogul has hired his own bodyguard to protect himself from the attacks of Hammerhead and his gang. The bodyguard is named Sonic, and he confronts the group of bald men approaching Zeniru's hideout. Sonic warns them that very few people survive after facing him in combat. Meanwhile, the villains are closing in on the building known as the Golden Poop. However, the ninja stealthily intercepts them on the way, and within seconds, he swiftly beheads them one by one, eliminating most of the Togen gang members. In the end, only Sonic and Hammerhead remained. Meanwhile, as Saitama walked through the city, citizens pointed at him, remarking that he was one of the terrorists due to his baldness. The latter believed he could set a tactical trap to counter Sonic's speed, but the ninja saw through the bald fighter's intentions and managed to vanish from his sight, hurling a kunai from behind right into the nape, putting an end to this bald rebellion once and for all. While the ninja relayed the events, the bald man disappeared from the scene. Hammerhead ran through the forest and suddenly came face to face with Saitama. Genos was with the doctor, repairing his robotic body. He recounted how Saitama had once again saved his life and how he had made the mistake of underestimating his opponent. The doctor empathized with the cyborg and told him that he was working on new parts. Perhaps when he finished them, he could surpass his sensei. Back in the forest, Hammerhead asked Saitama if he wanted to join the Togen gang, to which he replied that he was only there to teach them a lesson. He was then ferociously attacked, raising a cloud of dust around him. As expected, this didn't even leave a scratch on Saitama, who responded with equal intensity, shattering Hammerhead's supersuit and leaving him completely naked. However, he ultimately allowed him to escape. At that moment, our hero is intercepted by the mysterious ninja who attacks him, mistaking him for one of the bald villains. Despite Saitama's attempts to explain that he is a superhero and not a villain, he fails to convince Sonic. However, the situation changes when Saitama blocks the ninja's attacks and anticipates each of his moves. Sonic realizes that he must improve his attacks because the bald guy clearly anticipates every one of them. In an unexpected turn of events, Saitama accidentally strikes Sonic in a sensitive spot, causing the ninja to double over in pain. Although he can barely stand due to the blow, Sonic declares his determination to train and become stronger to face Saitama in the future. Back home, Saitama tells Genos about the ninja. He then asks his disciple to go to his home and leave him alone, as he has an important matter to address. His main concern is that despite all his achievements, nobody seems to recognize him as a true hero. He has even been mistaken for a terrorist. Genos suggests that they both register online with the official Hero Association registry, which will lead them to take a test to become official heroes. Meanwhile, in the forest, Hammerhead pleads for his life, but is beaten up for stealing the association's suit by two new enemies lurking in the city. The day of the Hero Association test has finally arrived, marking a significant milestone on their journey towards obtaining their status as registered heroes. However, before achieving that recognition, they will have to face both a physical challenge and a written evaluation to prove their worth. For our friends, the physical challenge proves to be a straightforward task, demonstrating their abilities effortlessly. They are first put to the test in a 1,500-meter race, followed by weightlifting and shot put, concluding with the house specialty, the punch machine. However, the real surprise comes when the results of the written evaluation are revealed. The cyborg scores the highest, achieving an impressive rank S, while the bald one barely manages to pass with a low grade, placing in the rank C category. As a result, Our friend, the bald one, finds themselves in the lowest position within the Hero Association. After receiving the results, the young individuals are summoned to a meeting with a hero named Snek, who exudes excessive confidence in his combat abilities. However, our protagonists, aware of their own strength, choose to disregard Snek's boasts and defy the expectations imposed by their rank. After the encounter with Snek, our protagonists return home. On the way, the cyborg shares an intriguing revelation. The Hero Association is only 3 years old, and its origin traces back to an incident in which the director's grandson was attacked by a kaijin. Fortunately, a person who was present at the scene intervened and saved the child. Upon careful consideration, that distinctive chin may sound familiar to you from a child at the beginning of the video. Saitama was on his way home when he was intercepted by Snek, the instructor of the Academy's seminar, who seemed determined to give him a beating. Snek had the notion that Saitama was trying to get him expelled, but the reality turned out to be quite different, as our bald hero left Snek in a rather embarrassing situation after defeating him soundly. The next day, Cyborg called his sensei to a secluded location to engage in an intense training battle. The confrontation was truly thrilling. Although Saitama never directly attacked Cyborg, the latter realized he was at a disadvantage when Saitama unleashed a lightning-fast attack that obliterated everything behind him. It was at that moment that Genos realized Saitama was on a completely different level, one he couldn't even hope to reach, despite all his training. After the exhausting training session, they decided to visit an udon shop where they took part in a food contest. Genos had no trouble dominating the competition, while Saitama almost collapsed from the effort. At that moment, a Mai Mask suddenly appeared and asked to speak with Genos outside. Surprisingly, a Mai Mask came to congratulate Genos and welcomed him to the team, leaving Genos stunned. 5 days later, we found our hero and the cyborg living together in Saitama's house to learn his secret techniques. While Saitama relaxes by reading manga and watching television, Cyborg makes a suggestion in the middle of their conversation. He warns Saitama that he needs to start performing heroic acts as he runs the risk of being expelled from the association due to inactivity. Surprised and horrified by this revelation, Saitama goes out on patrol before the last day begins, having been inactive as a hero for 6 days. Saitama declines Genos' request to accompany him, telling him to strengthen his mind as training, although in reality, Saitama doesn't know how or in what way to instruct him and advises him on things he reads on the top cover of the manga he was reading. After patrolling for 2 incident-free days, the hapless hero becomes nervously restless, as it's his last day to avoid getting fired. To make matters worse, the silent ninja appears right in front of him and throws a kunai, while Sonic starts muttering some words that Saitama, pressed for time, decides to ignore and withdraws. Saitama's rejection provokes the ninja's fury, and he attacks with his sword. This attack ends with his sword shattered, bitten by the bald superhero. He warns him that he had already told him he was busy, and if he doesn't leave the place, he'll strike him. After the recent scandal, a mysterious hero known as Tank Top Tiger emerges to try and stop the one who has been accused of causing disturbances in the city. However, what Saitama least expected was that he was the one they had accused of causing it all. The bald man tries to explain that he is not a villain but a new hero, but Tank Top claims not to have heard of him. The hero decides to challenge Saitama, but in the blink of an eye, Tank Top is defeated by the ninja, who continues to terrorize the citizens. Sonic steps up to confront Saitama, unleashing several ninja superpowers, destroying everything in his path. Our bald friend quickly intervenes, heroically saving a child from being crushed by a car, stopping the ninja with a little correction, or rather a punch, and securing his place in the Hero Association. Later, in the gloomy ghost town district of Z City, 2 Class A heroes, Golden Ball and Spring Mustache, are dispatched to investigate a case. However, on their way, they encounter a monster named Infinite Kombu. They decide to confront the villain, using a weapon that resembles a slingshot with super aiming. Nevertheless, it proves insufficient as Kombu easily dodges the attack and counterattacks, sending the monster soaring through the air and crashing into a building, ending him in an instant. It's now Mustache's turn, who skillfully avoids all the attacks with his sword and retaliates by launching his super move, known as Tomboy. However, Kombu, although surprised by the attack, manages to dodge it effortlessly. The hero has no choice but to call for reinforcements. Casually, our bald hero happens to be in the area at that moment and is attacked by the monster. However, it seems that it was no trouble for Saitama. After the encounter, he can be seen cooking at home. Hopefully not what everyone is thinking. Finally, when all the heroes arrive at the scene of the events, they are met with a devastated city. Moments before the impending incident, scientists and astronomers are completely engrossed in studying the flight pattern of a meteorite as it crosses the Earth's skies. Without any prior warning, the meteorite's trajectory abruptly changes, and a massive alert system issues a chilling warning. A colossal meteorite is on the verge of impacting directly on City Z. Later, we witness Genos, a member of Class S, being summoned to a crucial meeting. Before entering the meeting room, he crosses paths with another S-Class hero, an elderly hero known as Bang. This seasoned hero explains the unusual nature of the situation, as they were the only two summoned to the meeting. This suggests the gravity of the threat. A massive meteorite is on the verge of impacting the city, and the destruction alert is of epic proportions. The threat is classified as Dragon, indicating that it is one of the most catastrophic scenarios imaginable. Consequently, the impact of the meteorite could result in the complete devastation of City Zeta, which is currently being hastily evacuated. The situation becomes critical, but Genos, with his unyielding will, refuses to give up. Resolute, he heads towards the city center, where it appears the meteorite impact will be most devastating. Upon reaching the location, he prepares to unleash his ultimate attack. However, his determination is interrupted by the arrival of another S-Class hero, Metal Knight, who seems to be testing his newly developed high-tech weaponry. Metal Knight launches his arsenal of extremely powerful missiles against the meteorite. But surprisingly, the colossal asteroid seems to mock such a display of strength, as if the missiles were nothing more than tickles for the immense space rock. As the meteorite continues its advance, Genos, the cyborg with an iron will, decides to take the risk and unleashes his powerful attack, but the effort depletes his energy reserves. With just 9 seconds remaining until total destruction, just when all seems lost, Saitama appears. With a single punch, the asteroid is reduced to rubble, leaving everyone present, including the elderly Bang, speechless. However, the impact of the meteorite scatters its fragments across much of the city, leaving many of its residents homeless and without possessions. Nevertheless, massive destruction is averted at the last moment. The following day, all the heroes involved in the incident see their ranks within the Hero Association increase. Even Saitama advances from rank 342 to rank 5 in Class C. However, he fails to ascend to Class A or S due to the considerable damage caused to the city. Genos, the cyborg, discusses the meteorite with his mentor, which represented a dragon-level threat. Within the Hero Association, threats are classified into levels: Tiger, which causes many casualties; Demon, which threatens the functioning of a city or even its destruction; Dragon, which implies the destruction of multiple cities, as the meteorite represented; and God, which threatens to extinguish the human race. After this conversation, Saitama decides to roam the city, or what's left of it, and he realizes that his favorite supermarket has been reduced to ruins. In that place, the Class C hero who had previously been defeated by the ninja is found. This hero is upset with the bald hero, claiming that Saitama cheated to reach his rank in a single move. He invites his brother to confront Saitama together. They start by discrediting our protagonist in front of the society, blaming him for the city's destruction, and then attempt to assault him. However, Saitama takes care of them and gives them what they deserve. Later, he addresses the citizens and explains in an unfriendly manner that he simply did his job. After his speech, Genos arrives and asks his mentor to return home with him, to which Saitama agrees. As they walk together through the city's ruins, Genos tells Saitama that he doesn't care what others think. To him, Saitama will always be the man who saved City Z. Saitama responds with a smile on his face, grateful for his disciple's words. After a few days, a new threat loomed. It was a creature calling itself the Messenger of the Mariners, a hideous beast resembling a giant octopus. It claimed to belong to the Clan of the Oceans and warned that they would soon reclaim the surface. However, our brave central figure wasted no time in discussions and promptly took action to eliminate this threat. Days later, the ocean's enemies reappeared. but this time the entire clan came, causing widespread panic in the city. At that critical moment, an A-rank hero known as Stinger emerged, radiating style and confidence. He began to confront the invaders with determination, and despite defeating almost the entire enemy group, the Deep Sea King emerged. This terrifying creature defeated the hero with astonishing ease, while Saitama, Genos, and the licenseless rider were heading towards City J, where these events were unfolding. On their way, the Deep Sea King encountered a hero who had been imprisoned and sentenced to life for harassing men, known as handsomely masked Sweet Mask, who teamed up with a ninja who seized the opportunity to escape from prison. The hero began to confront the king, delivering some solid blows, but was ultimately defeated by a devastating combo of attacks and thrown far away. The ninja, initially more agile than the king, was forced to flee when an unexpected rain boosted the monstrous villain. The Deep Sea King arrived at the shelter, where the residents feared for their lives due to this horrendous 6-meter-tall foe. Unfortunately, the intensity of the battle escalated, and he overpowered all the heroes who were protecting the citizens. Upon entering the dome, his powers were diminished due to the lack of contact with water. At this critical moment, a cyborg came to his aid and began to defend the citizens who supported him, holding the rank of S. The battle becomes truly intriguing when Genos deploys a series of astonishing techniques against the Deep Sea King, sending him flying far from the battlefield. This triggers celebrations among the crowd, but Genos, the cyborg, lets his guard down at a critical moment and ends up losing one of his arms. Despite this setback, Genos fights valiantly against the king, who intensifies his attacks. Finally, Genos manages to land a stunning combo, but at that moment, the Deep Sea King hurls a ball of acidic saliva towards a defenseless girl. In a heroic act, Genos steps in between the attack and the girl, leaving himself practically incapacitated. The Ocean King is having fun with this situation and is about to deliver the final blow to Genos by taking him to the outskirts of the location. However, at that moment, the unlicensed cyclist enters the scene, a C-class hero, and confronts the Ocean King. Despite the vast difference in power, the unlicensed cyclist starts unleashing all of his techniques against the enemy, bewildering him not with his power, but with the futility of his attacks. The Ocean King eventually grows tired of this, and subjects the unlicensed cyclist to a beating. When the monster is about to end the lives of both heroes, and the hopes of the civilians seem lost, the Bald One appears with his super cape. He prevents the cyclist from being killed, as well as his cyborg friend. The Ocean King, confused by this intervention, notices that the bald kid completely ignores him and decides to attack by striking his bald head. However, he discovers that the attacks have no effect on the young hero, who turns his back to him. Despite people's doubts, the bald kid demonstrates his power by defeating the Ocean King with a single punch, even making the rain that was pounding the area disappear. After this confrontation, days later, our dear friends, now recovered from their injuries, return home to find a pile of letters. Interestingly, Genos is the one who places the most importance on the correspondence, while Saitama receives only 3 letters. Upon opening the first letter, Saitama is met with a barrage of criticism and hatred. In the second letter, someone expresses their gratitude, and in the third, the Hero Association notifies him that he has been promoted to the #1 position in C-Class. Encouraged by this news, Saitama contacts the Hero Association to arrange an interview and explore the possibility of moving up to B-Class. He accepts the offer and undergoes a series of questions from the evaluation committee to determine if he is suitable for the promotion. In the end, they grant him the 101st position in B-Class, recognizing his exceptional abilities. After being cryogenically frozen, the Ancient King emerges and sets out to head towards the cities with the intent of causing destruction. However, the Hero Association sends the diminutive Tatsumaki, who holds the title of Rank 2 in the S-Class Heroes, to take down the formidable foe. As the Dinosaur King prepares to launch an attack, the little hero effortlessly dodges and engages in a witty, sarcastic conversation with the enemy. Eventually, she summons a meteorite from space and defeats the monster. Next, we take a big leap to Bang's dojo, where Genos and Saitama are present. In the dojo, we witness an impressive demonstration of what Bang refers to as Essence, the flowing water rock crushing fist. After a brief discussion, Bang puts an end to the debate, but they are interrupted by a messenger from the Hero Association, who informs them that they must attend a meeting of the S-Class heroes. Despite not being an S-Class hero, Saitama is also summoned to the meeting. At the meeting venue, Saitama meets the S-Class heroes. Although he is unfamiliar with two of them, the number 1 and number 8 heroes. The Hero Association director explains the reason for the meeting. The association has always relied on the predictions of an elderly seer named Shibabawa, who has never been wrong in her predictions. However, this time, the elderly seer passed away after having a disturbing vision in which she announced that Earth was in danger and that the enemies were already on their way. Right at that moment, the city is attacked by a massive alien spacecraft. The heroes emerge from the stronghold to confront the threat. Saitama joins the battle and, to his surprise, faces a 6-headed monster named Melsargard, which has the ability to divide and regenerate. 4 of the strongest heroes decide to take on this monster, while the rest debate on the rooftop of the building about how to approach the spaceship and uncover who the enemies are. Meanwhile, Saitama effortlessly progresses through the interior of the spacecraft, defeating all the foes that cross his path. In the main chamber of the ship, he encounters a one-eyed creature named Boros, promising an intriguing showdown for our bald hero. Saitama continues to advance through the ship, demolishing everything in his path and dispatching any enemy who stands in his way. This development led one of the lieutenants, Geryugen, whose appearance is akin to that of an octopus, to enter a state of panic. He was in the transmission room when he witnessed the astounding ease with which his comrade, one of the most powerful warriors in the crew, was defeated by Saitama. The commotion on the ship prompted Boros, the creature leader, to leave his main chamber and head to the control room to find out what was happening. There, Geryugen was awestruck by the presence of the ship's captain and universe conqueror. Boros had a conversation with his lieutenant and ordered him to eliminate the Earthling intruder, with the assistance of Groribas and Melsargard. It was at this moment that he learned Groribas had already been defeated, which greatly caught his attention. Boros assured Geryugen that the ship would not fall until the energy core in its main chamber was damaged. Meanwhile, outside the ship, the heroes continued their battle against the last remaining Lieutenant, this being proven to be a formidable adversary, as every time it was defeated, it regenerated, wearing down the heroes physically and mentally. This stratagem was part of the aliens' plan to weaken the heroes before confronting them. However, Geryugen telepathically communicated with the Earth monster, explaining that the ship was being destroyed along with the entire crew. He asked for the monster's assistance in defeating the Earth invader. Concerned for his friend's safety, the Earth's adversary urged Geryugen to give the order to fire at the point where he was located, with the intention of eliminating the heroes. However, Metalbat manages to identify the Earth monster's weak point, marbles within its body responsible for its regeneration. By destroying them, the parts that make up the monster start to crumble. The heroes launch a fierce assault on the 6-headed monster, gradually breaking down its components and leaving only the original entity. Amid the attack, the latter manages to incapacitate the elderly Silver Fang. Inside the ship, Saitama finally reaches the control room, and after a brief demonstration of the octopus's powers, which, though impressive, prove ineffective against our bald friend, Saitama easily defeats him. Returning to the showdown with the Earth monster, the ship launched missiles just as the alien was celebrating its apparent victory. At that moment, Tatsumaki, the courageous green-haired heroine, made her entrance to rescue the heroes from imminent defeat and counterattack the ship. Meanwhile, the samurai continued his relentless assault on the monster. Inside the ship, Boros descended a staircase and shared with Saitama a prophecy that a fortune teller had revealed to him 2 decades ago. According to the prophecy, on this planet, he would find an opponent capable of matching his combat skills, despite having traveled countless planets across the galaxy without encountering a worthy rival. Initially, he dismissed the prophecy as false, but when facing Saitama, he understood its truth and felt excitement at finally encountering a real challenge. At that very moment, Saitama delivered a powerful straight punch to the alien, causing him to stagger back several meters and crash against the wall. Saitama scolded him for invading a planet just to satisfy his thirst for excitement. He observed as the alien recovered from the blow, but his armor had been shattered. Boros confessed that his true power had been limited by the armor, and that he was now completely unleashed. Saitama's only response was a simple, "Okay." Inside the spaceship, the situation grew even more intense. The Universe Conqueror unleashed a significant portion of his immense power and launched an attack on Saitama at an astonishing speed. For the first time, Saitama found himself compelled to use his hands for defense. The battle escalated with each passing moment, and soon they moved from inside the spaceship to the outskirts, remaining airborne above it. It was then that Boros unleashed his full power, reaching supersonic speeds that left our hero in awe. Saitama began to endure a series of devastating blows in what appeared to be a fierce battle. The situation grew so intense that Boros finally managed to deliver a powerful blow that sent our bald friend straight to the moon. Had Saitama finally found a worthy adversary? However, it didn't take long for him to return to Earth at great speed and with renewed fury, leaving Boros astonished, who responded by attacking him with all he had. At that moment, Saitama made the decision to confront Boros. Saitama counterattacked with a barrage of punches that seemed to shatter Boros, but the Conqueror still had a trick up his sleeve and regenerated, as did his six-headed soldier. However, Lord Boros didn't stop there, and decided to unleash his third and most powerful state. He employed his impressive technique, the collapsing star roaring cannon. Saitama realized the enormity of the attack and chose to use his secret weapon, the serious punch. With a single strike, he diverted the enemy's attack energy into two, pierced through it, and delivered a precise blow. The force of this blow shattered a portion of the core, and the clouds parted. Boros was defeated once and for all. After the destruction of the spaceship, Saitama exited it and met up with his disciple to recount what had transpired inside. However, he completely ignored the green-haired girl, seemingly unaware of her presence. Regrettably, City A was left utterly devastated, but at least it appeared that there were no more enemies. Or so we thought. The story unfolds with a new day in the lives of Saitama and Genos, who are strolling through the streets of their city while running various errands. As they explore, they come to a halt in front of a shop that catches their eye for selling collectible figures of the heroes, the courageous defenders of the city. Saitama can't help but notice a particular figure in the display window, the representation of the Class S hero known as King, renowned as one of the mightiest. As expected, within a matter of minutes, a new enemy emerges in the city where they reside. It's a grotesque creature of a human, who claims that his love for reptiles has transformed him into one of them, and he now goes by the name Tongue Stretcher. This new being begins to attack the city's inhabitants, although his focus seems to be more directed towards women, making him appear reptilian and slimy at first glance. Nevertheless, one of his attacks causes a man to lose his cap, which falls to the ground. This man, exuding a strong aura of destruction and wearing an evil expression on his face, stands out from the crowd. It turns out that we are in the presence of the most famous and revered hero among all humans, the great and mighty King. The people who were fleeing the scene regain hope upon seeing him, and the villain begins to tremble in the overwhelming presence of King. However, despite the surprise and the crowd chanting his name, in reality, King, despite his imposing appearance, seems to be more frightened than the reptile inside. We then witness Tongue Stretcher surrendering and promising not to commit evil acts again. This leaves people even more bewildered as King, without needing to lift a finger, has defeated his opponent. After these events, King continues on his way to a video game store, where he purchases the game Doki Doki Sister 2, a visual novel that appears to please him. This allows us to see that King is more vulnerable than we might have imagined, in addition to revealing his deep interest in otaku culture, surpassing all of us in that regard. Later, Genos and Saitama spot him coming out of the video game store. The cyborg tells the bald man that this man is widely recognized in the city as the strongest hero. And guess what? Another villain appears, this time a very peculiar robot named G4, created by the organization with the mission to eliminate King. However, since King is paralyzed by fear, he agrees to fight against G4 and help him gather the information he needs, but requests permission to use the bathroom. Surprisingly, the robot grants his request, and King seizes the opportunity to escape from the scene. In this way, we discover that King never intended to be a hero. He simply had the misfortune of attracting enemies towards him, and other extremely powerful individuals defeated them in his place. As King used to end up unconscious on the battlefield, upon awakening, he would find the corpses of the monsters, giving the impression that he had eliminated them. This leads the Hero Association to grant him the 7th position in the S rank, making him the strongest hero in the region. Upon arriving at his apartment, he immediately immersed himself in his favorite video game. However, at that moment, Saitama appeared out of nowhere in his room, surprising him. He stared at him and asked why he had run away. Meanwhile, Genos was busy battling a robot on the outskirts. The battle was intense. Suddenly, a gigantic bird threatened the city. Saitama, with his unmistakable calm, stopped it with a single hand. Meanwhile, an evacuation warning echoed throughout City M, announcing a demon-level threat. Unfazed by the situation, Saitama turned to King and told him that if he released the bird, he would have to face the threat himself. King, aware of his inability to fight, finally decided to confess the truth. But when King turned to look at Saitama, the creature was gone. It was at that moment that King recognized him. It turned out that some time ago, his scar had been caused by an alien, and Saitama had intervened to defeat the enemy and save him. The bald man finally acknowledged that King was weaker than he appeared and had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time when the enemies attacked. Saitama promised King that he would drop by his house from time to play video games and have a good time with him, since he noticed that King was feeling down. Meanwhile, Genos, who we had forgotten was in the midst of the battle with the robot, finally defeated it and gathered information for future upgrades. The Heroes Association is calling for a meeting with the aim of uniting all potential wrongdoers and villains, offering them exceptional rewards for each demon's defeat. Earth could be facing an imminent threat, as the witch's prophecy has yet to be fulfilled, and demon-level adversaries continue to increase. The newcomers, apparently, pose an even greater danger and a strength superior to that of Boros. Amidst this gathering stands Sonic, the silent ninja, who chooses not to offer his assistance, as his sole mission is the destruction of Saitama. At that very location, a mysterious lady known as Fubuki made her entrance into Saitama City with the determination to find him. It was incredible that a newcomer could rise through the ranks to a B class so rapidly. The leader of the Heroes Association convened a meeting with the villains, where he revealed a concerning statistic. Within the association, there were 390 C-class heroes, 101 B-class heroes, 38 A-class heroes, and only 17 S-class heroes. He explained that this would not be sufficient to confront the looming threats in the next 6 months. As the meeting unfolded, several villains began to express their discontent. The heroes who supported Director Steak, including Heavy Tank Fundoshi, argued that they should not collaborate with these individuals. In the midst of the crowd, the voice of a man named Garu was heard, stating that the prophecy was coming true and that the leader was right. An unprecedented god-level threat was approaching, and it was imperative that everyone be prepared. According to him, not even everyone present at the meeting could defeat the formidable Garu. Garu claimed that he trained tirelessly day and night, due to his admiration for monsters. His fame grew as he managed to close down more than one dojo, because each time he entered one, he defeated all its members, leading the martial arts school owners to shut them down due to the losses they suffered. After sharing his exploits, Garu challenged everyone present, inviting them to attack him simultaneously to determine who was the strongest. In response, the director of the place called upon the heroes to intervene and remove Garu from the scene. However, in the blink of an eye, the 3 heroes had lost their lives at the hands of Garu, who not only took down the heroes but also defeated all the villains present, as he considered himself a monster rather than a human. The question that arose then was whether we were facing an opponent on par with Saitama. Faced with this situation, the director quickly summoned all available S-class heroes, but Garu acknowledged that he was not in his best shape to confront all of them at that moment. He announced that he would return in 6 months, by which time he would be ready to face any challenge that came his way. Meanwhile, at the bald man's home, Genos, the cyborg, informs Saitama that he has reached the 7th position in Class B, while Genos still holds the 14th spot. Saitama, on the other hand, keeps the information about the creatures he eliminates a secret, despite his skill level mysteriously increasing. Genos comments on his sensei's growing popularity, hinting that Saitama might already have a fan base. At that moment, the cyborg detects a rapid approach of a target in their direction. Seeing that Saitama is immersed in a video game, Genos decides to take care of the issue. As he steps outside, he realizes that it's the persistent stalker, Sonic, the famous ninja who remains obsessed with defeating the bald man. On the other hand, Saitama receives a visit from Fubuki, the leader of Class B, who leads a team of low-ranking heroes to stay at the top of their category. Her reason for the visit is clear. She wants Saitama to join her faction. She explains that if Saitama doesn't join any group, it will be nearly impossible for him to climb to higher ranks, since everyone will consider him an enemy to defeat. However, Saitama realizes that Fubuki sees him as a threat to her own position, which makes him uncomfortable. Despite her arguments, Saitama simply states that he will rise to rank A on his own, which doesn't satisfy Fubuki. In a desperate attempt, Fubuki orders her bodyguards to eliminate Saitama, but as expected, Saitama dispatches them with a simple arm movement, sending them flying. Fubuki uses her telekinetic powers to attack Saitama, who, with great agility, dodges her attacks. During the confrontation, Saitama points out that Fubuki only feels strong when she's in charge of people weaker than herself. Amidst the intense battle, a massive explosion occurs, and Saitama rushes to protect Fubuki, as Genos is locked in combat with Sonic. Fubuki is impressed to hear Genos refer to Saitama as Sensei, and watches in awe as Saitama confronts Sonic. In a predictable turn of events, Saitama effortlessly surpasses Sonic's speed and defeats him, leaving him in a deplorable state. Fubuki decides to share a bit more with Saitama and reveals that she is Tatsumaki's sister, who holds the second position in Class S. She has always lived in the shadow of her talented sister, and this is the driving force behind her desire to surpass her rank and have loyal followers. She explains to Saitama that surpassing the leaders of the various ranks, including King, is a task she sees as very difficult to achieve. However, to Fubuki's surprise, at that moment, King pays a visit to Saitama, who had given him a video game as a gift. This demonstrates that even high-ranking heroes show interest in the bald man with unusually overwhelming power. While they chat in a relaxed manner, on the city streets, the class leader, Sweet Mask, is confronting his enemy, Supon. The confrontation proves to be easy and ruthless, as Sweet Mask has no qualms about eliminating his opponent, despite the association's request to capture him alive. The next day, an unexpected visitor arrived at Saitama's house. It was Chiranko, a student of Bang. This young man shared with Genos the news that his master had been acting strangely, to the point of expelling him from the dojo, making him the latest student of the academy to be sidelined. Genos suggested that the reason behind this was probably related to the case of Garu, an individual who had staged an attack on the Hero Association, and was now the target of an intense manhunt, known as the Hero Hunter, or the Human Monster. This news plunged Chiranko into desolation, leading him to think that his master had excluded him because of his weakness, as Bang would be focusing on pursuing Garu to stop him. However, despite Genos' advice, Chiranko, stubborn in his determination, decided to venture alone in search of the Hero Hunter. As he walked through the forest, he caught the sound of a conversation on a nearby street between an individual named Garu and Moomin Rider, a brave hero. Upon realizing Moomin Rider's identity, Garu decided to take drastic measures and subjected him to a severe beating. However, their interaction was abruptly interrupted by a group of muscular individuals who came to avenge Garu for attacking one of their own. Garu, without a word, knocked out one of the muscular men named Tank Top Vegetarian, whom he had spared in an act of mercy. However, in a brief moment of distraction, he received a powerful blow from Tank Top Master, an S-class hero, which put Garu in a compromised position. Tank Top Master's combat skills were astonishing, and his imposing strength forced Garu to retreat. What we did not know, however, was that Garu was meticulously studying his opponent's combat abilities. The fight became intense, with Garu skillfully evading Tank Top Master's ultimate attack. At a precise moment, Garu countered with a series of precise blows that hit all the vital points of his opponent. With this overwhelming offense, he not only defeated the S-class hero, but also all of his disciples, including Chiranko, who tried to help but was also injured in the fray. Bang called his brother, nicknamed Bomb, who decided to join the cause to impart lessons to his former pupil. While they were on their patrol rounds, they encountered a massive cataclysm unleashed by an individual wreaking havoc among the heroes. The following day, Saitama visited the wounded heroes, including his friend Moomin Rider, and one of the S-class heroes informed him about what had happened, highlighting the supernatural abilities of this mysterious individual. This piqued Saitama's interest, particularly regarding martial arts, which were claimed to be the most powerful, even surpassing the abilities of any beast. Determined to learn more about the matter, Saitama consulted Chiranko to find out if he knew anyone he could spar with to explore these intriguing martial arts. Chiranko mentioned the elderly Bang as an option, although Saitama didn't have a close relationship with him, and, furthermore, wasn't particularly interested. However, Chiranko provided him with an entry pass to a martial arts tournament in which he had planned to participate. But due to his injuries, he could no longer do so. Unfortunately, the tournament did not allow for replacements, but Saitama had other plans to ensure he could enter without any issues. At dusk, Garou visited a park where he encountered a child who had a guide detailing all the heroes and monsters, including their ultimate techniques. Garou was impressed by this unusual compendium. The child kindly lent his book to Garou, who began to flip through it and explore the names of the heroes patrolling nearby. He decided to look for a hero patrolling in the vicinity and came across Golden Ball. Garou lured him into an alley, and what followed was a formidable showdown. Despite Golden Ball managing to inflict several wounds on him with his projectiles, it soon became evident that this tactic would not work against Garou, who accurately predicted his movements. However, the unexpected happened when another hero appeared to help Golden Ball. Despite their efforts, the new hero was quickly defeated alongside Golden Ball. Garou, increasingly bored by how easily he defeated heroes, decided to take a stroll through the city streets. It was then that he stumbled upon a shop where Saitama was buying a wig. Garou, thinking Saitama was another hero who had come after him, launched a powerful blow. However, he was surprised to see that the punch had absolutely no effect on Saitama. Saitama, on the other hand, mistook Garou for a thief and knocked him out with a single punch. The next day, Garou woke up in a dumpster, not quite remembering what had transpired the night before, but for the first time, he felt a sense of dread as he realized that his blow had had no effect on the bald man. We can recollect a bit of his childhood through a vivid memory in which he watched superheroes battling villains. However, he always showed support for the monsters, who inevitably ended up defeated. From a young age, he decided to build his own strength and become a human monster, capable of challenging any hero who crossed his path. Now, the Hero Association is deeply concerned because Garou not only attacks heroes but also targets its own members. Both he and the monsters pose a significant threat. In response, an agreement has been reached, which entails that all association members deemed of great importance will have the protection of Rank S bodyguards. Although, to be honest, it's not clear whether this measure will be of great use. Meanwhile, Saitama entered the Super Fight Tournament, an event scheduled to take place in a single day. While waiting for his turn to compete, an individual who seemed to know Chiranko entered the scene. This fighter, who went by the name Sourface, confidently proclaimed that he would be the tournament's victor. He had two clear objectives in mind. First, he wanted to showcase his martial arts style and earn people's recognition. Second, he sought to avenge an incident from the previous event where a fighter named Wolfman appeared and swiftly defeated all competitors. At the end of the tournament, the real Wolfman was found unconscious, leading to the strict ban on the use of masks or participant impersonation. Violating this rule could result in losing their hero license, facing fines, and even imprisonment. It turns out that the mastermind behind that event was Garou, who had previously studied alongside Sourface at the same dojo. One day, when the master was absent, Garou declared that he had nothing more to learn there and challenged everyone to a fight, defeating them all and leading to the closure of the dojo. Consequently, Sourface seeks revenge for what Garou did to him. However, in the midst of their conversation, Sourface takes the opportunity to belittle the supposed Chiranko, claiming that he is weak and shouldn't be in the tournament solely because he's Bang's disciple. At that moment, Saitama becomes furious and retorts that at least Chiranko had the courage to face Garou without fleeing from his dojo in fear. In other words, he accuses Sourface of being a coward. Sourface challenges Saitama to the platform to teach him the true martial art and give him what he deserves. On the other side of the city, Metal Bat was working as an escort for two Hero Association members. While enjoying a sushi meal, they were ambushed by an attack from around 100 giant centipedes. Without breaking a sweat, Metal Bat effortlessly defeated them. However, a looming danger was in the air because among these centipedes was the so-called Elder Centipede, a being that had arrived on Earth 2 years ago and unleashed a true catastrophe, classifying it as a dragon-level threat. Despite being exhausted and the only hero facing this overwhelming threat, Metal Bat decided to confront these colossal enemies. His attacks proved ineffective against the Elder Centipede, who launched him into the air, passing by Garou, who had arrived at the scene following the evacuation alarm. Furthermore, Garou learned that an S-class hero was locked in a life-or-death battle against the creature. At that moment, Metal Bat realizes he is in a disadvantaged situation. Nevertheless, his unwavering pride as a fighter compels him to confront Garou and the imposing 100-foot creature. The battle commences, and while the exhaustion of this valiant hero is evident, his determination keeps him on his feet to continue the fight. Garou notices something peculiar. Every time he launches a more powerful attack, it seems to somehow stimulate the hero. Despite Metal Bat losing a significant amount of blood, his combat speed increases, and his strength as well. The peculiar martial technique employed by Metal Bat raises numerous questions in Garou's mind. Intrigued, he inquires about his style, but Metal Bat simply responds that it's a street style, and his pride won't allow him to be defeated by a nobody. The battle is on the brink of concluding, with the hero's decisive blow about to end the confrontation, when unexpectedly, his sister appears and manages to stop them both. Surprisingly, Garou decides to cease the fight and withdraws, seemingly unable to attack children. However, he soon finds himself surrounded by other villains who present him with an invitation to join the Association of Villains. Garou promptly declines, as his sole interest is to sow chaos in the city. Speaking of chaos, in cities all around, multiple demon-rank enemies have emerged, causing issues in society. The challenge lies in the absence of heroes to confront the impending threat. At this moment, Metal Bat is unconscious, and it is then when an individual known as Metal Knight appears. This mysterious hero confronts the 100-foot creature and ventures underground with the enemy. The villains have taken one of the children of a politician from the Hero Association named Waganma as a hostage. Amid the crisis, Fubuki and her followers confront a self-proclaimed villainess called the Sadistic Queen. The situation becomes even more complicated as rank A heroes are defeated by the enemies. This leads us to wonder, where are the rank S heroes? Supposedly, there are 17 of them, but only 2 are in combat. Meanwhile, a fierce battle unfolds outside, and our friend Saitama, also known as Chiranko, remains completely oblivious to what is happening outside. The martial arts tournament begins, and the fighters introduce themselves. Chiranko, who is actually Saitama, is perceived as the weakest among all the participants. Additionally, a blonde-haired fighter seems to have issues with Chiranko, threatening to defeat him and belittling his martial arts style. However, when looking at the list of fighters in favorable positions, it's discovered that the same blonde fighter is in one of those positions, alongside Chiranko. As if it were preordained, these two must face each other in the first round of elimination. Unfortunately, Zakos is eliminated with a single blow. It's the most awaited moment of the contest, and the audience rises to their feet as the mighty Suryu makes his triumphant entrance into the combat arena. His name is synonymous with excitement and anticipation. His opponent in this bout is none other than Lightning Max, a brave rank C hero. While Max had a strong performance at the beginning of the event, his dream of victory quickly fades as Suryu defeats him with a single devastating kick. Amidst the confusion and surprise, the event authorities finally become aware of the situation. They realize that a dangerous monster is lurking near the area. At that very moment, a fearless fighter known as Bakuzan steps forward as a valiant defender. He stands before the crowd and, with an icy glare, warns that he will take on the responsibility of eliminating any enemy who dares to enter. Bakuzan's declaration provides some relief to those present, since, after all, they are at a fighter's tournament. and it becomes clear that the venue is theoretically one of the safest places. At that moment, Genos becomes aware of the urgent communication summoning all available heroes to combat the looming threat over the city. However, upon seeing his enthusiastic bald master immersed in the excitement of the tournament, he decides not to interrupt him and departs alone for the mission. With surprising efficiency, Genos confronts every enemy he encounters on his path, defeating them swiftly and effectively. However, his confidence is challenged when he crosses paths with a cockroach man, an incredibly swift adversary who has managed to defeat several opponents. This confrontation begins to pose a challenge for Genos, who ultimately resorts to a secret ability he had reserved for special occasions, a high-powered instant adhesive that easily traps the creature before reducing it to ashes with his carbonization ability. With his enemy defeated, Genos shivers as he senses something approaching at great speed, promising a new challenge in his ongoing battle against the growing threat. Then, it's Saitama's turn to face Bakuzan, the second favorite of the event, in the tournament. At this moment, we see Bakuzan approaching him, attempting to intimidate him. He warns Saitama that he will show him his martial art, starting with breaking his legs, then his ribs, followed by a strike to the chest that will puncture his organs, and finally, a blow to the head. Unfortunately for Bakuzan, this was a bad idea because Saitama doesn't like anyone touching his head, especially now that he's in disguise. The surprise comes when Cherenko ends the match in the blink of an eye, and he doesn't even realize that it's already over. On the other hand, the kidnapping of Narinki's son becomes a serious issue for the Hero Association, as these individuals represent 7% of the Hero Association's capital. This could be a significant blow to the Hero's reputation, as the revelation of this incident could cast doubt on their effectiveness in protecting society. Amidst all of this, Fubuki finds herself in a challenging situation as she confronts the sensual princess, who manages to take complete control of Fubuki's followers. However, the sensual princess makes a grave mistake by causing harm to Tatsumaki's sister, a Class S Rank 2 hero. Tatsumaki arrives with all her power and regains control of the situation. Despite this, a lapse in dealing with Fubuki's followers allows the enemy to escape. It was observed that the Monster Association had sent a formidable adversary from an extremely fortified stronghold to the martial arts tournament. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes evident that this formidable opponent dealt a ruthless blow to Genos. As the story progresses, another protagonist is added to the equation, Gyoro. This individual is briefing the situation to their superior, indicating that the heroes are cornered, with the potential to completely conquer the territory. Furthermore, Gyoro mentions that they have not yet deployed their most prominent warriors, reserving them for the climax. The good news is that finally, the S-Class heroes, the most powerful among them, make their entrance, including Drive Knight, who showcases his recent modifications. They begin to decimate the enemies and threaten to eliminate them one by one if they don't provide information. Although, sooner or later, they will make good on that threat. On the other hand, Kid Emperor, donning an angelic expression, finds himself in a tight spot facing a giant jellyfish. Fortunately, Pig God, an S-Class hero, intervenes and quite literally devours the monster. After collaborating with Kid Emperor, they develop a serum to cure all those affected by the venom spewed by the jellyfish. At that moment, the colossal Hundred Eyes octopus, which had been sowing terror in the city, crosses paths with a group of A-Class heroes who decide to confront it. However, Flashy Flash, another S-Class hero, arrives on the scene and utilizes his special abilities to annihilate each of the creature's eyes and joints. Just as he's about to deliver the final blow, Tatsumaki appears to claim the credit, lifting the beast and turning it into a ball. Meanwhile, in the mountains, Atomic Samurai calls a meeting with the most formidable swordsman in the region. The conversation revolves around the thorny case of Garou and the veteran Bang's desire to face him. However, a dilemma arises because Garou was once Bang's disciple, posing a moral barrier when it comes to defeating him. The most sensible strategy is to locate Garou first, and once that's done, decide on the course of action. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn when one of the former swordsmen reveals a strange offer. He mentions monster cells that, when consumed, grant extraordinary power and completely transform the appearance of the one who ingests them. Faced with this proposition, Atomic Samurai watches with dismay as his friend has fallen into the pursuit of easy power, when it could have been achieved through training and dedication. As a result, Atomic Samurai makes the decision to quickly end his friend, without causing him suffering, to reconsider the strategy and defeat the Monster Association. Chiranko reaches the final of the tournament to face Suiryu, and for the majority of the bout, Saitama merely dodges the blows and prevents his wig from flying off, maintaining his disguise. However, the situation takes a turn when Suiryu begins to belittle the heroes, which irritates Saitama. In a moment of carelessness, one of Suiryu's punches knocks off the wig, but he remains unaware and throws a powerful punch that Suiryu manages to stop in time, as a direct hit from Saitama could have been lethal. Despite that, the punch disrobes Suiryu, revealing Chiranko's true identity, and consequently results in his disqualification. Despite the situation, Suiryu displays some annoyance, but chooses to continue the fight. In the end, Saitama manages to grasp the martial arts and the style he wanted to learn to win a battle. Due to the antics he had performed earlier, Saitama surprises Suiryu and defeats him with a powerful blow. However, after the victory, Saitama must make a hasty escape as the tournament security attempts to capture him for participating under a false identity. The closing ceremony of the tournament was reaching its climax. Suiryu, the grand champion, was about to receive his well-deserved prize. However, his happiness would be short-lived. At that moment, an unusual disturbance shook the place. Strange creatures, resembling demonic birds with humanoid arms, burst onto the scene. In their claws, they held several of the participants, including Dave and Bazuzul. To further complicate matters, one of the most powerful monsters ever known to the association joined the chaos. The dreaded Guketsu, who had been declared dead after his encounter with a creature but had actually been taken to a mysterious organization of enemies. There, he had been given a second chance to become an even greater threat. Guketsu had consumed cells that had transformed him into a dragon-ranked creature of unmatched danger. At that moment, the beast offered them the cells as a sinister choice: consume them and become monsters, or face certain death. Fear gripped several competitors, and without second thoughts, they ingested the cells. However, the champion, Suiryu, refused to submit and began to fight those who had accepted the transformation. Defying all odds, he tried to confront Guketsu, but soon realized that this demon was on a completely different level. Suiryu suffered severe injuries, with his arm fractured from a series of blows and enduring brutal stomps that left him in critical condition. Guketsu ordered the demonic birds to devour him, as Suiryu refused to join the side of the monsters. Desperate, Suiryu pleaded for help from Bakuzan, but Bakuzan decided to consume all the cells and, unable to withstand their power, succumbed. Just at that moment, Rank A heroes arrived to rescue Suiryu and fought alongside him to eliminate the birds. However, they did not expect Bakuzan to transform into a terrifying beast. Now they had to face two dragon-ranked threats. Guketsu, following orders from his mysterious superior, decided to withdraw. His objectives of sowing fear in society and among the heroes, as well as kidnapping someone of great importance, seemed to have been achieved. However, Bakuzan, not receiving any withdrawal orders, chose to stay and inflict suffering upon Suiryu, who lay immobilized with his arms and legs completely broken. Trapped in this desperate situation, Suiryu had no choice but to shout at the top of his lungs for help from any hero or await his inevitable fate. At that precise moment, our bald and brave hero makes his triumphant entrance to take charge of the situation once and for all. Saitama confronts Bakuzan, and to no one's surprise, defeats him with overwhelming ease. Suiryu, grateful for being rescued, reveals everything that's happening in the city and the sinister plans of the monsters. He also mentions Guketsu, an opponent of formidable power who left him in his sorry state. Saitama shows interest in this new challenge, although Suiryu warns him of the extreme danger it poses. However, in typical Saitama fashion, he disregards the warnings and decides to face the enemy on his own. A few seconds later, Guketsu's head falls to the side of Suiryu, once again demonstrating Saitama's astonishing strength. Sometime later, Saitama returns and confesses to Suiryu that he has been hiding his true identity, pretending to be someone else. Suiryu smiles and, curious, asks if he could become a hero as powerful as Saitama. Our bald hero responds confidently that if he could achieve it, everyone else has the potential to do so as well. Saitama walks through the streets, feeling a bit bored as all the excitement has faded away. The monsters only attack for brief moments and then disappear. On his way, he encounters King, who inquires about his mood. Saitama feels fulfilled and powerful due to all the training he has undergone. Nevertheless, Saitama feels dissatisfied because none of his battles provides the adrenaline rush of being on the brink of death, as in the confrontations he watches in video games. However, King, despite being a fearful hero, prompts him to reflect on the true reason for being a hero, saving others. He acknowledges that in this aspect, Saitama has not yet reached his full potential, and the way he expresses himself could be interpreted as arrogant due to his astonishing power. The conversation continues about video games and a match between them. King plays with just one finger, but their game is interrupted when Guru, visibly injured after his confrontation with the Class S hero Watchdog Man, appears. King sees this situation as a unique opportunity, but before he can act, Saitama hits him, incapacitating him once again. Both heroes suspect that Guru might be a thief, unaware of his true identity. Amidst these events, a monster manages to infiltrate the Hero Association to deliver a message. It claims that they desire to have a part of the world to live in peace, alongside their kind, coexisting peacefully with humans. However, in reality, this is a lie, as their goal is the extinction of humanity or the enslavement of humans to allow the all-powerful Arachi to rule. Following this, the enemy self-destructs, and the monster that had infected the human uses him to shoot at a member of the association. However, in the end, the monster is defeated by a Class S hero named Super Alloy Darkshine. While on the other side of the city, everything seemed to be quiet, Saitama found himself immersed in a fierce video game competition against King. Our bald friend appeared unable to defeat King, and suddenly, he recalled that he hadn't seen Genos for over a day. Since Genos was his disciple, Saitama decided to go out on patrol in search of him, aware that he should be concerned about his well-being. Upon regaining consciousness after being knocked out by Saitama, Guru sensed the presence of a rank A hero, Death Gatling, patrolling nearby. However, due to his weakened state, he chose to withdraw and avoid a confrontation. Unfortunately for the Hero Association, everything that occurred has been leaked through social media, plunging the world into panic. The revelation of the kidnapping of a prominent figure and the monster attack on the Hero Association's headquarters has brought to light a series of shocking events. Furthermore, Orochi's scheme for destruction has eroded the public's trust in humanity, leaving everyone somewhat despondent. When Guru arrived at his secret hideout, he encountered an unexpected surprise. It was now occupied by a group of children. One of them, young Tereo, had a hero guide in his possession. Upon seeing Guru, Tereo felt compelled to tell him that his friends were asking him to leave. However, Guru assured him that he would only be there for a couple of days before moving on. But just as Tereo was about to depart, Guru realized he was surrounded by several heroes. It turned out he was being pursued by Death Gatling, a rank A hero. Despite his weakness, Guru seized the opportunity to take a look at the guide before leaving the hideout. He asked the heroes not to open fire, as he knew there was an innocent child present who might get hurt. Despite his injuries and the poison beginning to take effect, Guru was primarily concerned about Tereo, who was inside. However, to his surprise, the heroes paid no heed to him and attacked. Despite being wounded, exhausted, and even poisoned by one of the attacks, Guru bravely confronted 8 of them simultaneously. Over time, he managed to predict his opponent's movements, using their own attacks against them and defeating them one by one. In the end, only Death Gatling remained, who unleashed his most powerful attack. Guru effortlessly evaded all the attacks and defeated his opponent. However, the child who watched the battle developed fear towards Guru, due to witnessing his brutality, and fled before getting hurt. It seemed like Guru would finally have his moment to take a break and recover from his injuries. But then, Genos appeared on the scene with a drastic change, an upgrade that gave him tremendous power to attack Guru. However, Despite having the upper hand, his opponent seemed to elevate his level as the fight went on. But a surprise attack caught this formidable villain off guard. The confrontation was abruptly interrupted when several monsters appeared to back up Garou, seeking to recruit him for their cause. However, Genos took it upon himself to defeat them one by one. In the midst of the fray, assistance arrived in the form of Bang and his brother Bomb. It was then that Bang requested Genos to stand aside, as this was a battle between master and disciple. Without showing any mercy, the elderly master and his brother began to deliver a tremendous beating to Garou, leading him to relive his childhood. This turned out to be quite harrowing, as when he was a child, Garou endured the torment of witnessing how lonely people were treated with contempt, being considered weak. This dark past was, in part, what drove Garou to attain the power he now possesses. At this point, inexplicably, Garou mustered a spectacular strength and shattered the surrounding ground with a single blow. This act provided an opportunity for a mysterious winged being to kidnap him and carry him away. The situation became even more complicated with the arrival of the Elder Centipede, prompting the heroes to take urgent action. The imminent threat led to the Elder Centipede being summoned to deal with the S-class heroes. However, the appearance of this enormous worm significantly complicated the situation, as its formidable resistance made it impossible to breach its defense. In the midst of the chaos, Genos decided to take a risk and executed an extremely dangerous technique, venturing into the interior of the enemy in a desperate attempt. However, the massive explosion he caused inside did not inflict any damage on the monster, and the heroes were forced to flee through the forest, fearing that the Elder Centipede could enter the city, resulting in the deaths of numerous citizens. At that critical moment, Bang decided to risk his life with a brave attack, but King's intervention altered the course of events. King taunted the Elder Centipede, claiming that Blast, the number one in the S rank, was present. This statement caught the monster's attention, causing it to change its course towards King. Although King was terrified, as expected, Saitama appeared at the last moment and disposed of the centipede with a single epic blow. However, Garou, who had been successfully rescued, remained at large and posed a constant threat. The monsters, who had an important plan in the works, regarded Garou as a key piece. However, they had no idea that he too could become a significant menace to the Monster Association. The end! Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new anime recaps.